Welcome to Our Ventura TV. I'm Bart Stern, your host, and we're joined today by Ventura County Sheriff Geoff Dean. Geoff, thanks so much for joining us. I know you're busy and have a million things to do.
My pleasure, Bart. Always fun to sit and talk with you.
Great. Now, you were elected, it doesn't seem like long ago, I believe it's 2010, right?
It's been 3 years, and it's just flown by. The job's just incredibly busy, and
right.
the days and the weeks and the months have just flown by.
I bet. And with a new administration, I assume that not only has the time go by quickly, but so many new things that you're starting too. Is that?
We have 1,500 employees, and so many of them are so creative, and we've kind of unlocked the door on how to do business better. Right. And so there's always something new. There's always something innovative, and it's constant. It's a state of constant change. Yeah,
and with technology, I bet too, another variable that's changing your industry.
Well, it's we all have phones, and what those phones and technology out there can do, yeah. And it changes for us every 5 or 6 months. There's some new bit of technology that allows us to enhance right. and do our job a little bit better. Our battle, our challenge is we want to be on the leading edge, but we don't want to be on the bleeding edge.
Right.
So we want to be new, we want to try innovative things, but we're also spending the taxpayers' money, right. And that money is limited, so we want to make sure that when we do something new, it is cost-effective and it works well.
And efficient, sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you have 1,500 employees about?
Right around there.
That's me. I bet most people would not have any idea that there are that many people within the Sheriff's Department. Are most of those deputies, administrative, or?
It's actually split up. We have about 1,500. We have about 700 sworn deputies.
Wow. And
then the rest are professional staff, and some of those we have scientists because we run the only crime lab sure. in the county, and then we have civilians that work in our jail, kind of have a balance of employees in our jail, and then we have background investigators and our personnel people. So all the positions that don't have to be sworn deputies, carrying a gun, we civilianize those because it's just a more cost-effective way to deliver the service.
It's amazing. There are so many employees. You're also, I guess from the business perspective, can be considered one of the biggest CEOs in the county as well, with a huge budget and a lot of things to think about.
It's kind of one of the things the job has evolved to, and I'm kind of the CEO yeah. of a $245 million...
With a gun.
with a gun. People listen a little better for some reason.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So a $245 million budget, and I have to run it like a business enterprise, and we do. I'm fanatical about yeah. not wasting taxpayer money, and we're proud we've probably given back a couple $1 million each year to the general fund, because if we don't need it, we don't spend it.
That's something I've noticed about you as, I guess technically a politician, but as the sheriff and as a business person, it seems like you've really put a lot of thought into how to best use the dollars and to be efficient and conservative. Is that?
Well, it's kind of like, you're certainly a successful business person, and you run your business to deliver the right. best service you can to the customers, and we do it the same way. And while the bottom line for me isn't to make a profit, yeah. the bottom line is to deliver the best product we can, and the best way to do that, just like you run a successful business, yeah. is to be as efficient and effective, and kind of getting rid of duplication and sharing resources as much as we can.
Sure. Now, you said you have about 700 sworn deputies. Is it easy to find new deputies, or is there a constant process where you need to find
it's actually always been a challenge, and it hasn't changed. Huh. It was interesting when we had the downturn in the economy, we kind of thought we're going to have this huge influx of really highly qualified applicants.
Oh, sure.
And what we found is we had a huge influx of applicants, but they weren't necessarily qualified to be deputy sheriffs. Actually, for every 100 people that show interest and apply to take the test, I graduate 1 out of the academy.
Really?
It's an incredibly...
Out of 100 applications?
Out of 100 applications, wow. 1 person eventually graduates from the academy, and it's almost a year to a year and a half down the road before I get that. So we have to plan our hiring a year and a half ahead of time. Huh. And it's really, really a challenge, because I'm competing against all the other agencies in Ventura County and the surrounding counties for the most qualified applicants, and we all want the A players. We want the best players on our agency to work in our communities.
So if it's 1 out of 100, what's the most common reason that you don't get the 99? Is it because they don't qualify, or because they're looking at other opportunities?
excuse me. It's interesting. We lose them for a variety of reasons. Some of them, we give an initial test when you show up for the written test and say, have you used this drug, this drug, this drug? Have you committed any of these acts? And some people check the box,
chunk out of it.
And there's a chunk out. Then we have a written test. Some don't pass the written test. Following that, we have physical agility. Some don't pass that. If you get through that, you go into a pretty involved and detailed background process, and we go all the way back to your childhood. Do you have good credit history? Do you have a lot of debt? And we lose people from that. And
all
then,
indicators, I guess, of being a consistent deputy.
Exactly, and we don't want people with high debt because they're more prone to bribery, and so that's just putting somebody in a stressful situation where they've got enough other pressures in their lives. And then we lose people, they have to go through a psychological exam and then a full medical exam. And those are just people that get to the academy. And we've improved well in the academy. We lose anywhere from 10 to 15% out of the academy, those that start.
Oh, so you only lose about 10. You keep 90% who actually get to that phase.
Who actually start. We're very, very selective. And we used to lose more to physical injuries, but we brought a physical training program into the academy because it really wasn't cost effective to put all that money in somebody and they twist an ankle or something and there's no recovery program and we lose them, they have to start over. So we actually brought in George Erb, a local physical therapist, and they do rehabilitative training right there.
So kind of like a wellness approach to preventing injuries through training?
That's exactly what it is, and then a speedier recovery. I think we figured we saved about $250,000 the first year just in loss reduction.
Wow. Lost time from injuries?
Lost time, and then not losing the candidate after we'd put all the money, invested everything into them ahead of time.
Wow. So about how many deputies a year do you have an academy, right?
We have we have academy. We usually run 2 academies a year. We had about I think we hired 55 or 60 last year, which was a big year. We're not having as much of an attrition this year, so we probably won't be hiring quite as many. But
so 6,000 applicants to get to those 60?
Exactly.
That's my quick math.
Good job. Good job. That's why you're a good, successful business person. Yeah, 6,000 people. We test thousands and thousands of people to get the good people at the end.
Wow, to come up with a great product.
Yeah.
Sure. So since you've been sheriff, I know there have been new programs that you've developed. I've heard a little bit about prescription narcotics being a bigger issue. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, probably a few years ago, Gary Pennis, one of my assistant sheriffs who's been involved in narcotics investigations most of his career, started to see a significant increase in heroin overdose deaths, especially among young people. And he started to trace that back and found out the real root cause of the problem was these young people developed habits off prescription pills, Vicodin, Oxycontin, things like that. And so instead of just looking at the problem, he wanted to go back to the source. What's the source of this? And what we found is, and there were a few doctors, and doctors are wonderful, but in any business there's a small percentage that violate the law and abuse the system, and a few pharmacies that were prescribing hundreds and thousands of pills that were going out on the street. Wow. So you had young people that...
You would never think that the source of a drug problem is a pharmacy.
No, you wouldn't. And a long time, and so we had kids getting them out of their prescription bottles at home from their parents, leftover pain medication, and then all of a sudden we had a few doctors and pharmacies pushing out thousands and thousands of these pills. Well, the kids could pay $40 to $60 for a pill on the street, but then get a shot of heroin for 10 or 20 bucks. And so they developed this addiction from the pills and then switched to heroin and don't know how to use heroin, and ended up a lot of overdoses. So the Narcotics Task Force, specifically with prescription drugs, includes the DA's office, Simi Valley Police Department, the Highway Patrol, and they're targeting those people that are putting those pills out on the street to our young people.
So have you seen results from, or is it's a pretty new program? Or
it's only been on about 6 or 7 months, but we've put we've made multiple arrests of doctors, we've closed down a couple pharmacies. It's been very, very successful. We've seized $7 million, several million dollars in illicit profits from some of these people, which we get to reuse a portion of that for narcotics enforcement. So we get to use the crooks' money against the crooks instead of using taxpayer money.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so is there a program that goes along with the Sheriff's Department where people turn prescription medication back there are like safe depositories for prescription medications like painkillers?
Yeah, we actually started that program, and in every one of our stations, it looks like an old-fashioned mailbox. And you can come in and deposit all your leftover prescription drugs, because we try to get them off the streets. Because you'll go to the doctor and you may have a toothache, and the doctor will prescribe, 2 weeks worth of Vicodin, and you'll take one.
Sure.
And people just leave them. So we take them in, and we goes to our crime lab, and when our crime lab goes to destroy all the weapons that we take, at the same time we take them down, and there's an environmentally safe way to destroy all those drugs. We've taken in tons and tons off the street, and it's really great. So because we're keeping a percentage of those away from our kids, and we don't like people flushing them down their toilet, because it goes into the water treatment plant.
I've heard that. Does it really make a difference?
It does. They've actually taken water samples from some of these treatment plants, and there's high levels of many, many different narcotics in it.
That's amazing. You wouldn't think so. Well, thanks for doing so much. It sounds like a lot of the programs we talked about so far are focused on prevention even more than enforcement after the fact. Is that a common theme?
We try to do both. I'm kind of a carrot and stick kind of person, that we want to offer the carrot for incentives and prevention programs, but the other side, I'm also a believer that there needs to be some enforcement. There needs to be some fear of people that, hey, if you're going out there and selling drugs, we're going to put you in jail. So prevention for these poor young people, or people that develop these substance abuse habits, some options for them to get out of that cycle, but at the same time, really, really strong enforcement for those that are dealing out to our kids.
So speaking of enforcement, I've heard about new laws, policies related to jails, which probably are affecting the Sheriff's Department. Is there anything new in that area?
Well, everyone's pretty aware of the governor's realignment plan, which pushed a lot of state prison inmates to local jails. And we're doing okay here. It was funded, and we have probably 30% of my jail population is now made up of inmates that would have been in a prison. The upside,
would have been in a state prison?
They would have been in a state prison, but they're in a local facility now. But the upside of that, we've also got some funding to provide some really exceptional prevention programs. In fact, speaking of jails, I did want to bring you, just a little gift and just something for you to take home.
For me?
Yeah, it's probably not good that you wear that walking down the street.
Right.
Because these only come from one place.
Right. Well,
so
thank you.
I
really
appreciate you having me here, and I wanted you to have just a little token.
My own Ventura County Sheriff's Jail T-shirt. I have to be careful about where I wear it.
Yeah, you probably
not around the government center.
Yeah, that's probably, maybe you should just sleep in that at night at home, and that would probably be best.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so the realignment program, it's been a change. It's kind of been a sea change for law enforcement throughout the state, and everybody's kind of working the bugs out of it, but it seems to be working okay here in Ventura County.
Does it mean that there are shorter, if people are coming from the state, does that mean there are shorter sentences or more people who are convicted? Pardon me, fewer people who are convicted actually go to jail, or is that even affected?
No, there's probably not fewer that go to jail that it happens, but when they created the realignment law, prior to that, an inmate in a county jail would do about 70%. So if you got sentenced to 100 days by the judge, you do about 70 days.
Sure.
That's changed, so they only do about 50 days now.
Wow.
So there is an issue of concern on that time when they normally would have been in jail, that they're back out on the street. And while we'd like to hope that people aren't, committing new crimes, we'd be naive to think that. Probably anywhere from 50 to 70% are reoffending out there. Yeah. So it's a simple algorithm to say if these people would have been in jail, that 70% they're out on the street, that it's probably causing an uptick in some property crimes in different parts of the county.
Yeah. Well, thanks. We only have a minute left. The information's great. The time goes by so fast when we're talking about interesting projects and subjects. Thank you first for your contribution to the county as our sheriff. Are there any resources, or is there a way that the general public can get involved or be a resource to the Sheriff's Department, donate to any programs that you suggest?
Well, we certainly have the Sheriff's Foundation, which is a nonprofit, and 100% of the money goes to help fund things in the department we can't normally fund. We live off hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. We have search and rescue, we have volunteers in policing. So if they go to our website, www.vcsd.org, there's all sorts of opportunities if they'd like to contribute more to the community.
Great. Well, thanks so much for being here.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
your time. Our guest today has been Geoff Dean, the Ventura County Sheriff. Thanks for watching Our Ventura TV. I'm Bart Stern, your host, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.